Shut up and sit down.
I am a radical libertarian.
And we don't want the government to do a damn thing.
The current state of politics is unsustainable, politically, economically.
You deserve better.
It is about supporting, platforming, and assisting the people who are out here actually doing the fight.
You just take an issue that's important to you and do something.
There you go.
You are part of that declaration against tyranny.
Because no one brings tear gas to a gunfight.
This conversation gives me a little more hope for the future.
The one, the only.
Fight for liberty. This is the cherry on top.
This is FSM.
Hello, fighters. Welcome back to Fight for Liberty Live. I'm in the wrong screen. There we go. I'm your host, David Fite, and I'm here to get you fired up about the men and women out here making the world a freer place through politics, activism, business, journalism, and more. We are here live on Free Speech Media Network. If you are watching this on YouTube or Facebook or any of the old streaming platforms, go ahead and click the link in the description. Go on over to Odyssey or Rumble. They do a lot better job of paying their creators, and they're a lot less likely to shut us down for spreading our message. So go on over there. If you're already over there, go ahead and give yourself a little homeschooler high five like that, because you're an awesome person. And I'm joined tonight by a brilliant activist, writer, and orator. But before we get into that, we are going to hear from the peeps that keep the lights on real quick with our sponsors. First up, Blood of Tyrants Wine. If you are looking for a nice night in while sipping the blood of your enemies and taking down the tyrannical state, look no further than Blood of Tyrants Wine. Choose between a Merlot or Pinot Grigio or both, and distributed by activists you know and love. Go on over to bloodoftyrants.wine to check it out. They also have a new energy tea called Liquid Freedom that will have you refreshed and energized to go out there and fight for liberty all day long. Our other sponsor for tonight is Crafton Business Services. Crafton is dedicated to helping entrepreneurs start, grow, and maintain their businesses by providing a wide variety of products and services to make your business more efficient, manageable, and profitable. Crafton understands how frustrating getting your business off the ground can be. That's why they've put together their business in a box solution to turn your idea or side hustle into a fully functioning company and in one place for one transparent cost. So for under $1,000, you get your corporate filing, registered agent, logo, business card, marketing strategy, and an accounting consultation to get you started on the right foot. All of that is just $9.99 plus state theft. And if you already have a business, Crafton can help you grow to new levels with targeted marketing campaigns, affiliate program, website and social media redesigns, and more, or help make your business less of a headache with streamlined accounting, tax prep, and compliance. Go on over to crafton.us to learn more and use promo code FSM to help support the network over there. So please go check out these great brands, show them some love and support, and help us keep this wild ride going. But without further ado, joining the fight tonight, one of the most kick-ass liberty ladies in the world. She's the founder of Liberty or Else, where you can read her articles or listen to her streams, and by far one of the most requested and anticipated guests the show has ever had, the Doni, the Misfit, Doni Anthony. Welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm glad you had me.
It is an absolute pleasure. So I always like to start off with a super simple kind of testimonial question. So I'm curious, where did you first hear the term libertarian, and what was your reaction at the time?
It was Ron Paul, actually. I believe I had just graduated high school, and beforehand, I was trying to figure out why my paychecks had so much money kind of coming out of them, and I was trying to figure out how that worked. You know, I was a kid, 16-year-old's first job. So I'm like, okay, so the people who are spending more of my money are gonna make my taxes higher. And so I don't like those things. So I'm like, okay, I was listening to Ron Paul's message, and I'm like, that's how I feel. That's what I am, I guess. So I mean, I knew I was a libertarian back then, but I also fell for the whole, oh, you can't win back then. So I fell for the whole, fake Trump libertarian thing in 2016. But that was in 2015, that's when I registered to vote.
Nice. Same, actually. But it was Johnson for me on that year. That I was like, ooh, I could have guns and drugs in the same person. Nice. But Awesome. So what got you motivated to, actually get more involved and start, talking and writing and, doing work in the movement?
So I was already doing that work, more, as a constitutional conservative. That's what I was. I was already having group meetings and things locally and doing that stuff. But then I started watching how the local Republicans acted, not just the federal ones, and I started seeing that they weren't serious about fighting for actual freedoms and liberty. It was completely wrong. Even the little, you know, small local groups who say they're all about liberty and freedom, they will be willing to support a Democrat, um, just because they think they can control them. There's some kind of get back, feedback, or kickbacks, going on. So I was like, okay, they're not serious. So I sat back and actually kind of was homeless for a while. I was watching and seeing what everyone else was doing. I was doing my own thing, and I started working with small farmers in that in between that time frame. And I was looking at the bills that hurt the small farmers. Democrats and Republicans work together to hurt these small farmers, and these people have already seen it, but they have like no political home. And so then I was like, the libertarians actually reached out, and stuff like Larry Sharp, great guys who like reached out, had followed me before I like was like, I'm a straight up libertarian activist, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I had a break. I wasn't gonna do I didn't have a walk away. I never was a Democrat, never voted for a Democrat. Like I said, I saw them spending a lot of money. I didn't like Obama at all. So I didn't like any of the Republican candidates during Obama's time frame. So yeah, I've never been Democrat, so I actually my walk away is walking away from the Republicans, not a Democratic
Nice.
Party or nothing.
Same. Yeah, the only time I touched the Democrats was because I bought into the Tulsi Gabbard might win the primary lie there for a little bit. Um, but I mean, honestly, I really didn't think that we were going to do anything. She was just the best candidate at the time because we really didn't have anybody going yet. But yeah, fuck the Democrats. I can definitely identify with that. Wait, they're spending how much money? And I'm from New York, so like they control everything here, and it's just I've grown up in the country, but in a blue state, so it's just hearing shit talking about the left from the time I understood politics at all. Uh, so I definitely got a lot of shit for just touching the Democratic establishment for a second there to work with Tulsi. I went back home for like Christmas, and all of my parents, friends, and family were like up in arms because how could you? It's always a fun one.
Yeah.
So what
My
inspired
family
you
was
to
kinda like that with the
sorry.
Republicans. Oh, my family was kinda like that with the Republicans, kind of opposite in a sense. But, over time, as they're watching, they don't have an issue necessarily with Libertarian Party. They have questions, they're still looking. Because honestly, when you say Democrat, Republican, it causes anger and fury in some people. Libertarian, not necessarily, especially those who aren't really political and they're just, willing to listen or learn. They're like, "Oh, yeah, I actually like that. Maybe I'm a libertarian. I think I am a libertarian." So,
Mhm.
but when you say Republican or Democrat, 50-50 chance possibly, you're gonna be hated.
Yeah, it's weird. It's almost helpful that we're not super duper successful in that way because we're seen still more as an ideology than a political party, and more of a way of thinking than actual competition. I think it's easier to reach people when we're the third option, not the opposite option. Uh, in states where it's like really really red or really really blue, and the libertarians actually are almost the second place choice. I think it's a lot harder to reach those the people that are in the other party that are actually fighting with us for control, like in Indiana or something like that. It's a much different situation.
Yeah, that's actually where I was born and raised,
Oh,
Indiana.
nice. Hell yeah. That's man.
Mhm.
So you've been in like almost all of my favorite libertarian parties. I mean, like Indiana, Texas, Louisiana. Like those are three of my absolute favorite parties and favorite people. So that's a good resume. So when did you realize that you really liked writing and kind of putting pen to paper?
More so from the fictional standpoint. Ever since I was a kid, I love to read. I would go. So I grew up in a very authoritarian household, in a sense. And so one of my things where I had fun was reading books. I would sneak off in the bathroom and pretend like I was using it for hours so I could sit there and read books. And so I as a child, I mean, when I was in kindergarten and stuff, you know how you have all the books and there was a test, and if you got the highest score, you got all these different prizes and stuff. I was competitive in that nature, so I love reading. So then naturally it draw me to love writing. It wasn't really until college that I wanted to do less fiction writing and more, things that matter, like rhetoric, actual that kind of writing, opposed to creative writing. But that's what got me into writing. But I actually don't write as much as I need to, now because I've been more so focused on, you know, my activism work. I spend a lot of time on phones with people who are dealing with the government targeting them. I go to a lot of different meetings or I go to a lot of different places to speak with small farmers and things of that nature. So I kind of put those things in the back burner because it's overwhelming sometimes. You have people who will, like, at least 10 people could call me a day trying to figure out something going on with their case. They need some help with this. They need some help with that. Or someone's sending me something. Hey, this person's being targeted. So I need to start putting more time into my writing. But I've also been putting way more time into my chickens than writing. But I will start getting back to doing more writing.
I mean, hey, chickens take a lot of time too. It's a valiant effort.
Yeah.
I think if more people had chickens, I think people would just be better people in general if they if everyone had to go through the shit show that is trying to raise chickens. But also we'd have a whole lot more food and a lot less waste. So big fan.
That's true. And the other thing about chickens is if you watch their behavior, they kind of behave like humans, like with the hierarchy thing. People think, oh, they're just so cute. No, they're mean to each other. They peck each other. They will snatch the food out each other's mouths. They are trying to be the kings or the queens of their flock. And so that's how humans behave. And I think if human beings actually watch that, it's kind of like, whoa, do I really act like those chickens? I'm gonna say yes. A lot of people act like those chickens.
For sure. Sorry. So yeah, you just mentioned that you've been doing a lot more activism work lately. I've seen a couple of your speeches and things that you've done over the last few years. How did you really kind of get involved and start becoming this community leader?
I just had to. One of the big things in elementary, I keep going back to elementary. I hated bullies from the beginning. In first grade, I used to get in a fight almost every single day because of bullies. And so at some point, I can't just be quiet and not stand up and do anything because I'm not seeing the people who are speaking up necessarily highlighting the issues, the problems that really need to be highlighted, especially like at the local level. Where in Texas, where they're trying to do the eminent domain, and libertarians came out and they stood up for Moses and them, their business. Jeff and I were a part of that. But my whole thing is if I can't be on the computer, just typing and talking about stuff, I need to be actively doing things in person. The other thing is too is if I want to make a difference, I have to get my feet dirty, gotta get my hands dirty. All these events I'm usually leaving like with dust all over my pants and probably some chicken feathers or something on me. So you have to actually go out and talk to the people and then meet them where they're at. A lot of the farmers, they're Republicans. But the thing is, they would most likely support based off our conversations and the libertarians showing up to these events. They'll look to vote for a libertarian at the state level and lower. I can't say necessarily federally when it comes to the presidency because that's people really, ran by their fear still in a sense.
Yeah.
But when you don't do the work, you don't go and talk to people, you can't change people's minds. And sometimes you think you may be talking to human beings on the internet, but a lot of times those are bots. Arguing with bots, not real people, and the internet's not real life. So if you're not doing anything in your local area to try to change it or fix it, how do you expect other people to do anything? You have to lead by example.
Amen. Yeah, was that you that tweeted today, like influencing bots isn't being an influencer? I feel like
Oh
I
yeah,
saw
I
that.
did say
Yeah.
that just
I was-
yesterday.
Okay. That one gave me a good chuckle. I couldn't agree more with what you're saying about actually getting your feet and your hands dirty and getting out there and doing stuff. I think that a lot of times we get so involved in the electoral politics side of the party and the movement, and we just kind of get caught up in that cycle of we show up from September to November every year, and then understandably we need to take some time off because we put in like 100-hour weeks for those last 3 months, and then we kind of
Yeah.
take some time off. Then it takes some minute to find another campaign that we like and work with them, and then we're back to going full speed at the end of the year, and we don't actually show up to build connections with people that last for years. We don't go to the soup kitchens and the park cleanups and the other things, and or become friends with your chamber of commerce or various groups like that. Like, those connections are how the other two parties actually launch their careers usually, and we try to skip that every time.
Yeah, we do, and we gotta stop doing that. And I understand too. A lot of people are introverts, especially in our movement, in our party, and we don't want to be bothering people and pushing ourselves on people, and that's completely understandable. I'm an introvert. People probably wouldn't believe me, but I really am. It does really drain me to go and do this speeches and talking, and I get back home like, oh, my safe space. I'm just me and Jeff now. We're good. I can just recover. But the thing is, you just got to start doing it. You can start practicing. If you can start practicing on your own computer, and you just start practicing as if you're talking to someone, if you're not really comfortable talking to people yet, or if you're not, maybe talk to people who are comfortable talking to people. Maybe you can get some pointers so you can get some things that some pointers or some advice on how to talk to people, different groups of folks, because it's not always easy. It can be really scary. Like, in a sense, it's like sales. You do a sales job, but you're afraid to go knock on the doors and ask someone to buy your product. But if you really believe in what you're selling, it should be really a lot easier. And, you think about the things like, say, like a hunter. What does a hunter care about? They don't want laws on them telling them all these rules and regulations. They want to be able to hunt in without the government intervening in this. Why do I have to have a hunting license? This is a fundamental right that the government that should not be granting me. Find those different people and you can have those different conversations. But the other part of it is more libertarians, I think, should really be going to more small businesses and then teaming up, building coalitions and talking to them, because they don't like all these regulations and things that's put on them, or could put them out of business, or it's costing them a lot of money. So a lot of you can just go talk to your small businesses and see what they think. Maybe you're supporting politicians and policies that are actually harming your business. So there's different ways and different people how you can talk about these things.
True that. And in most cases, unless they're voting libertarian, they are supporting politicians that are hurting their businesses. That's a pretty across the board thing. I remember we had a lot of success here in New York when they were trying to do the flavored vape ban statewide. And we actually sent out teams of people in at least a third of the counties across the state to just go into vape shops all over the state. And especially we canvassed almost all of New York City and just going into every single vape shop like, hey, this is stupid, right? Join us. Like, we also think this is stupid. And I mean, it wasn't some like we tripled in membership or something like that, but we definitely got some active members. We got votes and we got donations from some of these small business owners who were like, oh my god, yeah, you're right. And we were actively trying to lobby against the bill in the state house as a party as well, so there was like some of that they were supporting. But yeah, it's not hard to coalition build with people that also are mad about something, and everybody's mad about something.
Right. Yeah, they're mad about something all the time because there's something. You know what I think that we don't talk about enough is property taxes. Almost everybody, I mean, I did a poll, I put a poll up, and like basically 90 some percent of the people want to abolish property taxes. Why are we not really talking about that as a party? That's a local issue. A lot of people don't like property taxes. They don't want to keep paying taxes on things they already own. things like that. We could be talking to people. We can bring them in. There's whole movements in different states to abolish the property taxes. These are some people we could be building with and working with. We're with you guys. As libertarians, we believe you own yourself, therefore you own the fruit of your labors. And if that's the case, the government can come and just tell you what you can and can't do with your property and take it from you, then am I a slave to the state then? Because I'm supposed to own myself and my property.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that clicked in my head at a young age was finding out that like attempted suicide is illegal. And it's like a joke now, but there's actually laws in most states where it's like, yeah, you can't harm government property. Like that's a problem. And that like it was told to me as kind of a joke and in that tone, but it really clicked. I was probably like 16 and I was like, oh shit, yeah, we really are. Like, and at the time I was like fully planning on going into the military in another like 12 months. And then you're really just government property. And it completely shifted the way that I thought about everything. Was this, because I mean, I was raised on American exceptionalism. We're the freest, most prosperous country in the world, and you know, we're so lucky to have the Constitution and our founding fathers that made everything so great. Like that's the bullshit that I was raised on, and it was really a hard shock when I realized that we aren't. Right. Right, but we're still just as much. We pay more in taxes, have more regulations, and are more fucked than the founding fathers ever could have imagined. And that's always going to be wild.
Sorry, my lighting was being weird. I think I bumped it. So the other thing I want to point out too is what you're saying about us being property. Think about this: the census is under the Commerce Clause. So Congress actually doesn't have any really real true authority to create the laws they have and enforce them on individuals in our country. They don't have it. Article 1, Section 8. There's nothing there's listed. They can do that. But then they put us under the commerce as if we're their property to be able to tell us what we can do. So they've done loops to try to find a way to take our rights. But, you know, when people don't read the Constitution, a lot of people aren't required to read it in school. I was required in Indiana. And I actually went to a high school that was surrounded by beans and cornfields, and you could smell cow manure when you were on the track running and stuff. So they actually taught those things at my school, but it didn't click. It was more like I'm memorizing this so I can pass a test. When you actually want to look at it and read it to apply it to real life and real situations, then you understand it more. It matters more. You know what? They always ignore the 9th Amendment, but it's just like that 9th Amendment right there basically just strips everyone of almost anything they can do in this country. But you know what? No one talks about the 9th Amendment. It's the first, the second, and sometimes the fourth.
Yeah, 9th and 10th are the most important ones. And we just completely forget about those ones. I mean, the first and second and third are like important and whatever. Well, third's kind of iffy. That one's not really been a problem for a while. It was kind of interesting.
But I also add the 14th.
True.
I would add the 14th Amendment as well, because that's like the state. Yeah, you can't do that either. Just because it doesn't say the state, you can't either. So I think the 14th is really important as well.
That's a good point. I think very few people bring that one up. I have, the 10th Amendment Center exists. Friends talk about that at least a little bit. 14th definitely gets pushed back. Totally off topic, but it was kind of interesting watching the Third Amendment actually be a thing for the first time, or like in a long time. During the like response to January 6th, they put the National Guard inside of like a bunch of parking garages around DC to just kind of like give them some place to like sit down in the shade and relax. And they just did that, even though they're all privately owned parking garages. And it was actually a Third Amendment violation for the first time since like the 1800s. It was super wild. And there is a case going on about whether or not those owners of those parking garages are going to get some sort of restitution for that. But I just super quirky and nerdy and fun that like it actually there was like quartering of soldiers in private establishments again for the first time in a while.
Well, you know what though? think about it like this, though. I kind of think the Third Amendment could be important in a sense, but think about back then. Their cops were the soldiers back then, right? So the founding fathers didn't like the soldiers, policing and being everywhere in their areas, like in their life. Well, today we call them cops basically instead of soldiers. So in a sense, it is the same. I mean, it is the same thing, but the government wouldn't want us to think of it that way or translate it that way because they want to make sure, oh, it's just soldiers. No, your cops work for the state. They're employees of the state, just like just like the soldiers are. But yet they just have a different name. So I feel like the Third Amendment can be way more important if people, translated the same. Those soldiers back then were cops. Just like these cops are kind of like the soldiers for the government here today.
True that. And that should be, precedence against like no-knock raids and warrantless searches and stuff like. I mean, Fourth also should help with that, but there's so many things in the Constitution that just get completely ignored. That's why I look back on my constitutional conservative self and just laugh. I don't know if you do that sometimes. It's just like, you idiot! You thought that paper would work. You thought that actually meant something. I know that there's probably people watching that still believe that, and I apologize for making fun of you, but it doesn't work.
I think they'll believe you more if they watch lawyers' behaviors. How come all these attorneys are trying to get people to take plea deals opposed to actually using that Constitution that they went to school to study, right? To enforce your rights and get jury nullifications going on. A lot of attorneys and lawyers are on board. Not all of you, because some of y'all are some fighters too. But a lot of them, like look at our conviction rate. That's a crazy high number. We have the highest prison population in the whole entire world, but we're the freest country. So apparently our lawyers are not doing a very good job when there's people locked up for victimless crimes.
That's a really good point. I think that you kind of have, it's like being a politician where you have to basically fully and completely buy into the system to actually be a part of it. You can't pass law school without knowing and believing all of the bullshit that they want to put into your brain, which is not defend the Constitution and uphold it and, prove people's innocence. It's all of this, precedents and statutes and all of this other bullshit that's been built on top of it. I will definitely echo what you said. There are quite a few awesome, brilliant lawyers in the movement who are doing some awesome stuff, who are doing the right thing, but it is a tiny little minority. Even, the couple of times that I've had to interact with the legal system, my defense attorneys have always been dog shit. Like I've never had good representation in a courtroom, ever. They're always just trying, like, first of all, none of them believe in my innocence ever. Like they're all like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, let's just get this done. You're bullshit.
They don't even want you having a trial. They want you, like I said, to have a plea deal. They want you to be able to not be able to exercise your rights, and they work out some deal with the attorney. And by the way, a lot of these attorneys become prosecutors. They also become judges. So it's like a big old cesspool of this problem. But I want to point out something, and people can disagree with me if they want to. The United States Constitution did not think about Abraham Lincoln. He only studied law, I think, for a year or two, and he became a practicing attorney. And so why did it go from there back then to what we have now, where it's almost impossible for someone to practice law? But when our Sixth Amendment actually says you have a right to counsel, it didn't say legal counsel, it didn't say attorney, it didn't say lawyer. Counsel meant a lot of different things back then. And if they wanted it to be an attorney or lawyer, on the Judicial Act number 35, it actually says counsel and lawyer. I can't remember if it's lawyer or attorney, but there were two separate words in the Judicial Act number 35. And so you don't have to have an attorney. This whole thing of them saying you had to have an attorney is to keep people out. There's a monopoly on the justice system with the lawyers. And the Sixth Amendment did not say it has to be just an attorney or lawyer with some kind of name on their side. Back in the day, before all this stuff with the whole common law, people could just represent their uncle if they wanted to. Now all of a sudden you can't do none of that stuff. They'll lock you up for practicing law because they made the rules.
Yeah, it's absolutely bullshit. I think with basically everything, you know, fuck, what am I thinking of? Like regulation on occupational licensing. That's the term I'm looking for. All occupational licensing is bullshit.
Yes.
But this occupational licensing is bullshit and hurts people actively and ruins lives and has destroyed our system as we know it. So it's definitely the worst, in my opinion. And it should operate the same way that we think the rest of them should operate. I don't have a problem with law school existing or the bar existing as a concept and as a thing that exists. And if you want a really, really, really well-trained, high-functioning lawyer, you can go and find somebody that went to law school. But you shouldn't have to.
Right. It should be a free market. We can choose. If we want to have someone who has all these credentials, then we can hire them. If you want someone who has the basics on their constitution and your rights and knows how to communicate with the judge and all that good stuff, then that should be able to be an option as well. But we don't have that option, and that's why people keep losing. We shouldn't keep losing. We shouldn't have to be wasting our time even showing up to court for things that there's no victim of crime. No one's been harmed. It's crazy that the government and states can actually say you have a firearm. They can say the state of Texas versus your firearms. It's like, those aren't even human beings to sue you for your own property. So this shouldn't even be a thing. You have a right to acquire property. You have a right to possess it, because possessive charges are crazy to me. You have a right to use it, and you have a right to dispose of it however you want to. And people don't understand that. But I think we have a problem in our world, nation, that other people have to control other people's lives so much that all these laws keep being pushed because one side's like, yes, I love this. Force them to do this or not to do this. The other side is saying, yes, let's force them to do this. It's just, how many freaking laws do we have? I should ask AI or something. Yeah, how many laws are in America? It'll probably break.
I've tried to use ChatGPT to help me comb through some laws, and I have almost broken it a few times of just it doesn't have the amount of information. I also broke it by trying to have it decipher the Libertarian National bylaws. It literally told me to rewrite the bylaws because they were bad. So that was fun.
Man, ChatGPT is kind of funny sometimes because sometimes it will try to argue with you. Like, you can tell it has authoritarian issues and how it words things. And like, I was trying to argue it back, and it'll be like, sometimes it's like, oh, I'll actually give it a source saying it's wrong, and it'll accept that it's wrong. But it's just crazy. Like, it's kind of fun to argue with ChatGPT. And fun, like, when you're bored.
Yeah, it's someone you can argue with that can't find you and hit you later. It's great.
Right.
So I feel like an issue that a lot of people have as they're like starting to try to get more involved and become more of an activist and you know, do more stuff in the movement and in their community. The problem is that there's just so many issues, right? Like if you've been a libertarian for a little while and you know all of these different things, there's so much BS going on. How do you kind of prioritize stuff and pick what you're going to get involved in and spend your time working with?
Well, honestly, the easiest thing is the people who are willing to work with me, who call me every single day and I work with them. That's how I kind of choose what I'm going to be working on and what groups. It's not that I will say no to a group. I also work with them, but if they're not really committed to doing the work and being consistent, then it's kind of naturally just falls that way. But I'll work with, honestly, I would like to work with all the smoke shops. I want to work with, honestly, I would like to work with Mike Tyson. Let me tell you why. Because like you were saying in New York, the flavored vapes and things like that, he has a product out. And a lot of states some states have pulled this stuff because the states have changed their laws. Mike Tyson should be talking to libertarians because if this is affecting his business. But just in case he sees it, if you have a connect, let him know that he needs to talk to libertarians because his business is being affected. And I'm watching it happen in Louisiana, I'm watching it happen in Texas, and I'm watching it happen in Arkansas. Some of them are still there, but I've seen some products being pulled. I think Texas pulled his products. I can't remember for sure.
Damn.
I think Kumbaya's in your chat. She might know.
Amanda, go to the smoke shop, find out. Damn, that's crazy. Because that it's funny. Last time I actually bought some of his shit, I was in Texas, but that was like 3 years ago, 2 years ago. So
Yeah, this is more, I believe this is
that's
more recent.
well. She said she has some of his vape stuff. So there we go.
Okay, so it must be in Texas still. Maybe it's Arkansas or Louisiana don't have it.
But
Okay,
yeah,
so it's not Texas then.
But yeah, back to your old point of like, there are so many people getting fucked over by the government that if we can find them and talk to them, they're a shoo-in for being our friends and our like allies in the movement, because
Right.
why wouldn't they ally with the only group of people who are fighting to keep their business alive?
Right. Like I said, the coalition. You know, one big thing is that you could easily do a coalition with property rights, but like property in general. So, you know, like I said, with my small farmers dealing with their animals, their livestock, things of that nature, people who, you know, marijuana or growing your own plants and stuff, of the government intervening with that, any or gun owners, all these different groups who can be very powerful. You get together. That's just 3 groups right there. Like we can do a lot of people when the people are serious, because every organization, every group is, you know, split. They always have those issues, but the people you take from each of those groups who are very serious, you can build stronger coalitions.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and there's so much common ground. And you know, if you have to sidestep the L word for a little bit to kind of find that common ground and work with them, getting those wins with those coalitions is significantly more important than shoving the word libertarian down people's throats. At least that's where I'm at the moment. Y'all can feel free to disagree, but I've gotten to the point where like I am a libertarian unapologetically, and I tell people that all the time, but it's not the most important thing in my life is not to tell people about that. It's to get these W's and get people working with organizations that are doing good work instead of crap organizations. You know, if you're helping people with animals, I used to work with the Humane Society and ASPCA, and like anything to get people out of helping like PETA and ASPCA and into organizations that are actually doing good work. Cool. I don't care if they're libertarians.
Yeah, those are actually the people that we're fighting with the small farmers. They have hundreds of millions of dollars they make a year. Instead of making criminals out of people or taking people's property, they're putting money into policies. They're up lobbying in DC. They're lobbying in multiple states to take people's rights away and make because these a lot of these organizations, you know, they said they don't want you eating animals. They don't want you wearing them. Nothing. They don't want you to even use them. Honestly, they don't even want you owning them. So the thing is, I don't think a lot of people realize that. But that's a lot who we're fighting. You know, there's a guy named Steve Hindy. Since you're in that world before, you may have heard of him. He flies drones over people's private property, videotapes it, takes pictures, puts their coordinates and their addresses on social media, but he hasn't been arrested for crossing state lines and violating people's property or privacy rights. So yeah,
That's
there's a lot
insane.
going on here. There's people getting pulled over for having their chickens in their vehicle, and they're taking their birds. No warrant. A lot of these things have no warrants. They're just going in, taking stuff, and there's no due process. So I'm actually happy you brought up those folks, because they're actually they may seem like they're anti-government, but they're more so anti-government, so they can sneak into your property and stuff and not get in trouble for it.
Oh yeah. For the record, like I used to work with them before I knew things, and for money, not for like actual like animals have never been necessarily my top issue, but it was a fun job. And like I believed in the Humane Society. That's who I actually worked for the longest time, because they one of the parts of their sales pitch was that they put like 93% of all funds raised back into the actual work that they do, not into like salaries and whatever, where like the ASPCA, it's almost the opposite, where over half of their fundraising is just paying people salaries. Um, and then I actually did some digging and found out that that number is as big as it is because of what you're talking about, because they dump most of it into fucking lobbying. And that's like doing the
Yeah.
work. And it's
Oh,
like,
and
no, that's
they send the money overseas,
mhm.
and they send their money overseas and invest it for
Yep.
themselves. These people are elites. They're not. They don't actually care about what they're claiming they care about. They don't want to help other people, and so that's an issue. So I honestly, those groups, I hate them with a passion. I've seen what they've done to people. Just one more quick thing. This couple in Norman, Oklahoma. Their barn caught on fire. Okay. They couldn't put it out. They called 911. They saw they have a bunch of game fowl. You know, game fowl gets a bad rap because you know what kind of bird it is. They had a whole bunch of game fowl. So they sat there and detained them until they could go get a warrant. Mind you, they called 911 for help. Their barn was on fire. They put the fire out. They came back and took 77 of their birds and took her husband's guns, took their stuff, and now they're having criminal charges on them just for having those birds on their property. They're trying to charge them for cockfighting at their house while their barn was on fire. This is what's been going on. And these are the kind of people I've been helping. These are the kind of calls that I get. It is so frustrating, you know, sometimes when people, you know, think, oh, this is all about my faction or my caucus or the people who I love or who I stand, who are my favorite celebrities. And it's like there's real stuff going on in real life right now. And if you're really serious, I need you guys to help.
Amen. Unless your celebrity is Doni, then continue to fangirl and keep doing what she's doing, because it's a great example.
No, I'd rather them be my ally. I don't want to be like, I don't.
Fair enough. Admirable. I don't know. At some point, you just can't help it. You got fans, girl. But yeah, no, 100%. Like I was saying, I don't care at this point about, or I don't want to say I don't care about the movement, because that's not quite what I'm trying to say. But my mission is not to make more libertarians per se. It's not to make more allies in the party and like get my way in the Libertarian Party. That was something I cared about for years. I don't anymore. Most of my time I spend with either the network or You Are the Power, doing fairly similar stuff of just hyper local, helping people fight government tyranny. And that's so much more rewarding too. Like I've gotten to see dozens of wins in just a year of working with You Are the Power, compared to my 5 years in the party with none. Like not even internal party. I've never won a single race, both public or like within the party, ever.
Oh. Well, you know, I
like,
think
not,
one of the biggest
you know.
goals for me is when it comes to the party or the movement, you know, think about vinegar in a water bottle, right? The less amount of vinegar is, the more water it doesn't taste. That's disgusting. The more vinegar in there, it's nasty. As we're out doing our work, yes, you don't have to lead off that I'm a libertarian, but what you do is you say, they go, "Oh, I love your work, thank you," and then they, you know, you let them know you're a libertarian. That we start bringing in regular folks whose main agenda is just to, you know, advance liberty. It's not about, you know, making a name for themselves or anything like that. And I feel like people will be happier that way. We get more folks in here who, you know, are not a part of any group or anything. They're just here to do the work. I think it could be a lot better and a lot funner for everyone else, you know, not having as much drama. That also comes again with that coalition building. Honestly, not everyone in Argentina was a libertarian. That's not how Javier Milei won his election. There's coalitions were built, you know, for that to be accomplished. I feel like us focusing on keeping our names on the ballots and everything like that, because that's the offense, right? You know, we have people in office that won't infringing your rights. We have to go and lobby and beg the Democrats, Republicans to stop taking money and infringing on our rights. But the thing is, too, is if you're building these local coalitions in your local area, you can more so build your government. A lot of people don't know anything about the government, and then you know some of it. You kind of come. I hate the fallacy, but authority. A person, someone of authority, because you know what you're talking about. So people believe you and they'll lean with you and work with you because, oh my gosh, I can go to this person because they actually know something versus they don't know who you are at all. So if you have all this information in your brain and you're only in your house and your friends and the party, you're not expanding and getting out there, their party will not grow. The movement will not grow. You have to go out and reach out and show them and lead by example so that they can support you. So imagine if your community knew who you were. You decide to run for a local office. You don't have to spend as much money. You have more people who volunteer and knock doors for you because they already know without you just saying, hey, I'm running for office. You've already built those relationships beforehand so that you can already have it going. You most likely can win the race if it's not super rigged where you're at, to be able to win something. I'm not running for office, by the way. That's what I'm working on, is trying to find the people in my community that can run for those offices who are already community leaders.
Yeah, give it a couple years. We'll talk you into it. But yeah, I've made this rant a couple of times on the show, so the viewers might be sick of it by now, but I don't care because it's important. I think that people that come from a like evangelical Christian background have an advantage to libertarian like messaging because they were raised on the mindset of two things. One, you can't save anyone yourself. Like they have to do it themselves, and like it's up to God, and all you can do is like plant seeds and water it. And then the mindset of just living a good Christian life and not shoving Christianity down people's throats and waiting for them to ask you, why are you such a nice person? Why are you so caring? Why are you always so happy? Whatever. And then you get to say the thing. I think both of those are important factors that apply to libertarianism also. You know, if you're out there in your community doing awesome things, helping people, being super understanding and caring and just a great person, people are going to ask you why. And if you get to tell them that it's because you built your life on this fundamental philosophy of don't hurt people and don't take their stuff and live and let live. And when someone else asks for help, you help them and bring them in. But again, that other point applies where you can talk to them for hours and hours and hours and hours, and you're not going to make them a libertarian. They have to actually combat their own preconceived notions, their own learned experiences of why they believe in the state and government and the history that they were taught, and come to a conclusion on their own. You're never going to argue somebody into being a libertarian. So yeah, just like being out there in your community, like you're saying, is so important, and is actually how you make libertarians, and how a lot of people have done really well in the movement, and why a lot of other people just have a social media following.
Yeah. You know, another thing too is older people. A lot of times their kids and stuff don't go around them or hang out with them as much as they would love for that. Imagine if you go and hang out with them and you're talking to them and they want someone there to talk to. You know, they may not convince them to go libertarian, but I mean, a lot of people that I've convinced are actually older people. They're older farmers and stuff. You know, they're wearing the libertarian pins and the Mises pins, or whoever showed up to the event that day. They're wearing the pins and walking around, and it's like, oh, I guess I'm libertarian now. And they're like over 60 years old. You know, so there's so many different people we could talk to. You know, a lot of them been around when a lot of bad things happened. Our government made so many bad decisions, and you know, and so a lot of people say like they don't even know what libertarian is. I actually had one farmer say, can y'all change y'all's names? That's too close to liberal to me, because you know the word has been tainted. But it's like, but no, not necessarily. You just gotta understand what it is, what the word means, and where it come from. And you know, vote is fine. I'm still not voting for a Republican or a Democrat again, but man, that is just that sometimes the words have been, you know, tainted, and it just shouldn't be that way. But libertarian hasn't necessarily been tainted. It's just that the word they see the word liberal-ish in it, and they think, wait, is that a left-leaning thing? I'm like, no, not necessarily. It's us against authoritarianism.
Yeah, I've been called a libertarian quite a few times. Sometimes it's on purpose, like the mixing of the words as an insult. But a lot of times it's just a genuine, they don't know what word they mean to be saying, and they say libertarian, especially like not knocking on doors, just talking to like, you know, your average everyday person. You know, I'll say something about like, you know, I'm not exactly a Democrat or a Republican, and it's like, oh, are you one of those libertarian people? It's like, Close, almost. Like, but yeah, I genuinely I miss being a field worker on campaigns because I used to go out and talk to 150 different voters a day for almost 2 years. And even though for the whole time I've been in the movement, I've had other jobs and had other friends, and I feel like I'm on the more like grounded and in the normie sphere side of the spectrum when it comes to the movement. But it's still like slapped me in the face almost every day how not normal my friends are and how removed I am from just what actual people care about. And we're online fighting about stuff that's going on in a different country or in DC or some ideological battle of some sort and some hypothetical should the roads be privatized or abolished or like, and that's not anything that anybody actually cares about out in the real world. It was something that I miss getting that like grounding influence at least like a few months out of the year of just this is really what normal people are caring about. It's like this dude is upset because his volleyball league got shut down by the city because there was some health code violation. That's the kind of thing normal people are invested in, not these ideological hypotheticals that we argue online.
Right.
Yeah, my roads. I do have a keychain now that I got in DC at the convention that it like looks like a road sign and it says "Ma Road," and it's my favorite keychain ever.
Oh, that's awesome. I got some really cool pins from the Radical Party. They left some pins out on the table at the Illinois convention. They have some of the best pins I've ever seen. They have the best sayings. One says, "Keep your laws off my property," and I'm like, "That's like pause. Keep your laws." Oh, it's genius. I love it.
Oh yeah, they have always kicked ass at the pins. I have a bunch of their stuff, and like they're get the government out of my marriage is one that I wore around for a long time. And I also like that most of their pins say re-legalize, not legalize. So if it's talking about like drugs or things like that, which is a fun conversation piece that I've had people be like, "What do you mean re-legalize cannabis?" Like, it's only been criminalized for like 60 years, dude. This is a new thing.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize that.
Yeah. It's crazy. You think about a lot of the laws that have changed, like, the age of how old you have to be to get married, that was changing throughout the states. And that was supposed to be to support population control. So it's a lot of things that's changed over time that, was normal for us. We were growing up with it that we don't question. But it's honestly, I'm gotten to a point where I'm kind of getting to Socrates moment. Like, I feel like I know all this information, but I'm kind of like, but do I know anything? Because at one point I thought I was right, but then I wasn't right. Right. And it's like, I'm having my Socrates moment. I wonder how many other people are having Socrates moments.
Often. Yeah. That's, it's a flip back and forth between like that and then imposter syndrome. When you feel like you've actually got it figured out, then you get imposter syndrome, and then you go back into but do I even know anything? We've got a question from the chat. How do you feel about Lysander Spooner?
Oh, he's one of my favorites of all time. I was I was going to argue with someone on Twitter about that because they called him what do they call him? A socialist or a commie or something. And just going back and reading his work, I feel like more people should be using his work in our work when we're talking to people. I went back and saw some of the black folks going back and they were doing things and looking up stuff. And Lysander Spooner's they had his information pulled up on their screen from years ago on YouTube. We should really be using a lot of his work because he has a lot of great arguments, and he's actually kind of helped me articulate some of my positions with other people. I think that he should be highlighted more. I think I mean, I will try to lie and say I'm related to him, but he didn't have any kids, so that I saw. But I feel like he was an amazing guy. Think about that. During the Civil War era, he was working with it's actually a Liberty Party back then. He was necessarily part of a party, but like they brought him up, and I guess they had him do things. He was an attorney that helped people that other people wouldn't be helped. He took on the government with the postal service, and honestly, that's a part of when I really kind of solidified my libertarianism. I was working on I was on a channel with Aquarian Anarchism, and they're the ones who introduced me to Spooner and told me to read some of his stuff. So I was hooked. I have pretty much everything of his. I've read almost everything, but I'm looking for more because there's probably more stuff, out there. But I think he's great when it comes down to things. He's really good on discussing natural law. I didn't think of the thing how he wrote that. I didn't even think of it that way. And then when you tell people this stuff, they're like, "Oh my gosh, that makes sense."
Yeah.
And I didn't sign a contract. That is true. I didn't sign the Constitution. You know what I'm saying? So he's absolutely right. We didn't sign it. So people think, "Oh, you're trying to get rid of the Constitution." Yeah, the Constitution is not doing anything for anybody. It created the centralized government that we do have. He was on to something. He knew what he was talking about.
Yeah. One of the things, every time I read like him or like Thoreau or anybody else in that kind of like in between the Revolutionary and Civil War era, it always strikes me how short of a time period that actually was. In my head, it's just like two completely separate eras because I was a war history nerd, so it's just like all the eras are separated by war in my head, and so I forget that there were people that lived all the way from one to the other, or fairly close, at least from the beginning of the country and the first kind of elections and the Constitution through till the Civil War, and we're shouting the same thing from start to finish that like this is going to cause a civil war. We're about to cause a civil war. Hey guys, a civil war is coming. Oh look, a civil war, and it mirrors, the fact that there's a lot of people currently kind of screaming a lot of the same stuff that, it's gotten worse again. We're going in that same direction. We're going to do the same thing. There's a bunch of Lysander Spooners out there right now who are equally being ignored.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are. And, the other thing with Spooner, if you think about modern day, I'm quite sure they would have deplatformed him or censored him. They were doing that back then. They had just a different way of doing it. And so the people don't know this stuff. Why was I not taught about Lysander Spooner in school, like at all? That's something I had to learn on my own later on in life. I did not know who Lysander Spooner was, but I sure know who Abraham Lincoln is. I know who all these other people are. I mean, of course, he was our president, but the thing is like no one talks about him. He's actually sent letters to people in Congress. They've been published. He is so base, honestly, how he goes in and talks about these people. He hates the Republican Party. He bashed them. So I can understand why Republicans would have an issue with Lysander Spooner because he called them out for their shit. The Republican Party trying to act like their whole purpose was, freeing slaves, and it was not the case. And he called them out for that. Lysander Spooner actually had really good plans on how to solve the problems without going to war and save lives versus what the Republicans decided to do.
Yeah. Kumbaya says she didn't learn about him until like 4 years ago. I think about the same. Yeah, like 2020-ish. I think Reed Coverdale introduced me to Spooner. And that was
nice.
Yeah, huge improvement. Yeah, Reed was like 3 months ahead of me down the like libertarian to anarchist pipeline and just kind of like grabbed me and dragged me down the pipeline with him for most of it. And yeah, we ended up both at the bottom right around the same time, with just complete disillusion in the system and the validity of government's existence as a whole. Which is a fun thing to talk to normies about. That's the other thing that I will say. There's a way to kind of like slowly introduce people into like libertarian philosophy and whatever, but I do think there is something to be said for being unapologetically libertarian or anarchist, whichever you are, because there are some people who are already there. Really, they're already fully disillusioned with the system. They already don't trust it at all, and they don't need to be walked down that but what about the roads? What about the schools? They don't care. And they're ready to buy into just an unapologetically libertarian message. They just don't know that it exists, or that there's a movement of people spreading it and building off of it. Nice. Donnie and I nerded out about Spooner at a bar one night. That sounds like a good crew.
Yes, I love her. She's amazing. I'm telling you, man. No, she's the best.
Oh yeah.
You know what? I want to tell you really quick. I actually have another goal too. I'm heavily on local, but what I really want to do, and I think I can actually get this accomplished, I want to go to Mexico. Well, it may be some spots some be safe. I want to go to Guam. I want to go to Philippines. I want to go to Puerto Rico. And I want to talk to those people as well. Because if you think about it, like we said, with this constitution not really protecting people. They're not Mexico, but the territories are supposed to be under the umbrella of our constitution, right? And they may not know what it says. They may not know what's supposed to be going on in those places. Like the small farmers are being affected all across the world. But I have friends and some bases and some folks who know groups over there that I feel like, yeah, I think I should go over there to those places and start teaching libertarianism over there too. So when they're watching America and they're seeing what's going on in America, they know the truth. Like, oh, these things they're not supposed to do because we're a territory. But then they're creating laws that these people aren't getting any representation from. They're being, but they're not supposed to be. That's not supposed to be happening. That's kind of one of my goals, and I've already discussed it with some of the organizations that I'm with right now. On getting funding and stuff for that, but that's one of my goals. It's not necessarily like a local thing, but it's like a local thing for them where they're at, and I'll show it to America because I've seen Mexico. But when I was talking about the Mexican president, I got some tea for y'all, by the way. It's coming very soon. I'm organizing it. They had a huge rally in Mexico City. Bullfighters, rodeos, farmers, huge. The Capitol was covered. They were throwing eggs at the Capitol. They were opposing this woman who just got elected. So I got video coverage of it. Some of this stuff's in Spanish. I got the English subtitles for you already. I'm so surprised how she could possibly win if she in that area in Mexico City did not like her, and they're trying to take their rights away. And how she's there. And, I did see where people were murdered along the way during this election cycle. It's not funny, but it's people gotta start thinking, I really want to show this. This was a massive, massive movement. You're probably not gonna believe with your eyeballs when you see it, that they were not very happy with what she was trying to do. And now she's president.
Yeah, I mean, happens. We did it too, a couple times over. But I'm 100% on board with the reaching out to the territories. That was part of the. I guess I can say this publicly now that the campaign's over. It was part of the Lars Mapstead plan. If we had won the nomination, was to be campaigning out there, because neither the Republicans nor Democrats really spend any time out in the territories, and they don't get an electoral college vote, but they do still count towards the popular vote. It does still count towards that 5% mark that gets us the national funding and everything. So, and it's been proven over and over again with the.
I didn't know that.
With some of the primaries for the major parties, that if you actually try, they're not that difficult to win. Like Tulsi Gabbard and Bloomberg won American Samoa and Guam in the Democratic primary in 2020. Like two of the tiniest campaigns just actually put some boots on the ground out there, campaigned a little bit, and kicked the actual front runners' asses. So, it's, again, it doesn't count for the college and towards the actual win, but the ability for us to actually start flipping the territory's gold on election nights is not far off if we actually tried.
That is really cool information. I think we need to talk to Lars and build a coalition on this idea, because I got some people.
Hell yeah. Kumbaya is asking why they don't get an electoral vote, and I think that has to do with the constitutional law behind it just gives it to states. the Democratic Party, as it exists, treats them as states, but the Republican Party and the federal government as a whole don't. So they get like delegates to the DNC the same way that all the rest of the states do, but they don't actually get an electoral college vote, which is bullshit. I mean, that's part of what we should be talking to them about. It's like taxation without representation. It's like the thing that founded our country, and we still have a whole bunch of it. We have all the territories, DC, and everyone under 18 are all being taxed without representation. It's more prime targets. I shouldn't say people under 18 are a prime target. That's a bad phrasing.
But I see what you mean. I get what you're saying.
I'm going to ask off topic, but how many chickens do you have?
23 baby chickens.
Wow.
So
23.
3 are Rhode Island Reds, and they weren't pullets, so I'm not for sure if they're all girls or not, but I'm assuming they're all girls. I'm kind of hoping one is a boy, because my other roosters that I have are not ones I want to mate with my other chickens. And there's like silkies and booted bantams, the kind of bird with the feathers all down his legs and his feet. And I also have some black stars and some Easter eggers. The Easter eggers can lay a couple different color eggs, but they're popular because they can lay green eggs. Yes, I have silkies. I have 3. I actually posted a video on Twitter recently about that. I actually have a video of them on Twitter, and it pooped. I was like, that little shit pooped during his photo shoot.
That's great. Man. So what was the inspiration to start raising chickens?
I'm watching the world come down and crumble, and work with small farmers. Like, I was in a rally and fighting with them, right? And they're always like, she doesn't even own any chickens at all, and she's fighting for us. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, I eventually wanted to, but now finally I can. Now I'm in Louisiana. There's more land over here, and so I can raise them. And I still am a novice, right? But I am learning. So I want to be able to have my own meat, have my own eggs, and also be able to have a business. I also want to donate my eggs to people who need food, who are like malnutrition and things of that nature. And when I lived on the farm in Kentucky for that year, I was getting my life all put together and everything and making it cheaper. I had farm fresh eggs. It's almost impossible for me to eat eggs from the store now. It's a huge difference of what it tastes like and what it looks like. And so my whole part is, with decentralizing my food. My food is local, or I grow it myself. I've never, imagine this, I'm a human being in the United States. I've never grown my own food and ate it. Now I can. And I think that would be really hard for some people, because, you can talk about the factory farms and what they do, but can you actually raise your own food? Can you slaughter your own food? Can you then cook and eat it? Honestly, if you want to solve the factory farm issues, then you decentralize your food sources. You start getting your food locally, or you grow your food yourself. Start educating yourself on different things about chickens and birds. And another thing is, this avian flu, this bird flu things are putting out here again. They are killing millions of chickens. Your eggs are going to go up. Your meat is going to go up for your chickens. You got to get prepared and pay attention to this. It's not just a scare tactic. They did this back during Obama's administration. Same thing. And now they're doing it again. And by the way, I did tell everyone on Twitter, the same USDA back then, the secretary, is the same one we have now under Biden. His name is Thomas Vilsack. And so, I don't trust the government telling people, like, putting stickers on our products anymore, because they allow other countries to put stickers on our food. They don't have the same regulations and laws we do. So end of the day, you're going to know what you're eating because you raised it yourself. You didn't add extra stuff to it, make it fat or whatever. You grew it yourself, so and then you can also sell it to other people or donate it to other people as well. That's a part of the community part of it as well.
Yeah.
But I'm going to get other things too, not just chickens.
I never
Me
had
too.
I never had animals growing up, but I had a lot of friends that did because I grew up kind of in bumfuck nowhere, upstate New York. So I had a few friends with like full like fledged farms and a couple family members with like large farms, and then other friends with like just the rooster of chickens and maybe a couple of other animals. Uh, and yeah, I got spoiled being like having farm fresh eggs a lot. Um, One of my best friends in high school uh, had chickens, and he got put in charge at like probably 12, 13. He got put in charge of the chickens. He had like 15 or 20, and he ran the egg stand and he took care of the chickens, and it was all him. And he was fucking loaded. Like we were like 15, 16, and this dude was going on like Boy Scout campouts with just like wads of cash, just fucking blowing it on snacks and shit. We're like, where did you make all this money? It's like eggs, dude. And so obviously when I started working and buying my own stuff, I would go buy eggs from him for quite a while until I moved away. And yeah, you're 100% right. It's completely different than what you're getting at the store, and that goes with everything. Whether we're talking like tomatoes or meat or anything, getting it from a farm or from a farmer's market or a vegetable stand or something like that compared to even the good grocery stores is a world of difference.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's my thing is it maybe not be for everybody, but at least if you're building your community and you're growing your coalitions, you guys can have that little market, exchange, to get your eggs and things of that nature. Because my other thing is too, if everything does hit the fan, what do I have to offer society besides my voice about freedom and liberty? Right? What do I also have to offer besides what I do now? Well, I could offer food. I can offer showing other people how to do it as well. They can get their food from me. I'm also needing to learn how to build things. So you're gonna have to build, so you're not spending thousands of dollars on chicken coops, and because if I have a bunch of chickens, that's more than one chicken coop. That's not just one. You learn how to build your own stuff too. I need to learn how to do a lot of things. Back in the gap, back with our great great grandparents, they could build things, they could raise animals. Now we hire someone to do that for us. And people used to make their own clothes. And now we have elastic and cheap material in our stores selling us these clothes. They're nowhere near at high prices still, but nowhere near the quality from back in the day. So it's another part of it is building skills I didn't have before. Because right now, if the world hit the fan, zombies were attacking people, I would be useless. So I can offer hugs.
I mean, they're great hugs, so that might still get you away. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I've stayed pretty good at my marksmanship for most of my life. So at least I have that to offer, even if I can cook and I can shoot. Those are my two main skills for when shit hits the fan, and I feel like those are important enough, and I can just kind of continue honing in on those. But I could do better at building and fixing and like that kind of shit, because I am definitely all of the stereotypes of my generation. Like I can change my own brakes. I can do an oil change. I can do like basic stuff around the house. I can change an outlet or a light socket or something like that, not just the bulb. But past that, I'm fucking clueless, and I'm calling my dad. And I got spoiled because my dad is a good handyman. And so it was just so easy to just, like he could just do it. He's good at it. Like, why should I learn how to do it when he can just do it? And now I'm screwed. But yeah, the like food decentralization thing is something that I think is very important, that a lot of people, you can go like prepper and try to store up a bunch of stuff and whatever for when shit hits the fan. But at the end of the day, you are going to run out. There is going to need to be something. And whatever shit hits the fan, whether we're talking zombies or World War III or dollar collapses, whichever thing happens, the very first thing to fall is going to be the distribution of goods across the country. Like Walmart will not function anymore. You're going to have to survive off of your local farmers. That's going to be the first thing before even like the
If it's
zombies
any
get to your
left.
town. Right. So you better hope that your farmers are doing good and they like their neighbors and that you're supporting them and that they're supporting you and that connection's good, because they are going to be very important. Guaranteed.
Yes, very, very, very important. And along those lines too, with the farmers, a lot of them actually know how to do all these things that we're just discussing. So you don't want to vote against them or go against them in a sense, because they know how to build things themselves. Some of them build their own houses. Some of them build all their coops on their own. They know how. Let me tell you, when I stay on the chicken farm, the husband will go out, and I didn't hear nothing. I know nothing going on. There's no cameras. He has this gun with him, and he goes off and kill an varmint. But I don't know how he knows that they're there. They just have a different instinct, and those are not the kind of people that you want to be your enemy. And here's my thing: farmers are very much like us. They like to keep to themselves, like secluded, out in the middle of nowhere. Don't bother me. I won't bother you. They're very much like us. So in a sense, too, it's like they'll probably be some of the easiest. Like, it's for me, they're one of the easiest people to convince about the libertarianism, because it matches a lot of their values and their beliefs. And then honestly, some farmers are Democrats as well. They're not all Republicans. And they are also looking at like, oh, okay, this is a better option. I have farmers who have said, I will not vote for Joe Biden and I will not vote for Donald Trump. If anything, I'll go home. I'm not even voting for RFK either. I'll just not vote. I said, but don't forget about your local level. Yeah, that, but I can leave the top to get blank. And then, and it's just like, but now there's an option. There's another option. Now I know what that option is. I've seen it on my ballot, but I didn't know what that option was. Now I know. And you see them come, like I said earlier, when libertarians are showing up, their banners are there. The Republicans and Democrats are not there. Those people are thinking, oh, libertarian. Okay, that's our people, because they come to our events. It's just showing up, having the shirt on. Pick up trash with libertarian on the back of your shirts. Oh, libertarians pick up trash. You know what I mean? The small things that we can do, start like doing things like, billboards. Think about, here's another thing is too, the small states with like Kentucky and Louisiana have like 4 million some people. Why don't we just send mailers to people all the time, just giving them like seeds about liberty and libertarianism? Like that could be, it may seem expensive, but it's not Texas where there's like 20 million people. If you start in the small states and start sending out these mailers, because if I had the money, I would be sending out mailers to whoever I can in Louisiana right now. I already have some flyers ready. I'm gonna have to just hand those out because I don't have mailer money. But imagine if you did have the money, you could be sending mailers to people in their states. And some of these companies aren't that expensive if you have money to send mailers, or even if it's just your county, it's a small county, send out mailers to them. Start planting seeds.
Amen. And especially on the local level, it's people underestimate how much of like a friend of a friend matters to people. If you are involved in your local party and involved in your community, and then your party runs somebody for city council or whatever, just being able to tell all of these people who are your friends, hey, my friend is running for office, can you vote for them? 8 times out of 10, that's going to be a yes, unless they're also friends with the opponent, which is obviously a sizable chance if they're like that involved in the community. You might get that thing. But if you have a personal connection with the candidate and the person you're trying to sell the candidate to, that's a really easy sell for most people.
Yeah, it really can be. Just, it's kind of word of mouth. That's a big thing too. Like for businesses, some businesses still operate off word of mouth and they're very successful and they don't even know what social media is. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
word of mouth is very, very powerful.
Oh yeah. I run a marketing consulting company. I know how many companies have no idea what social media is. It's always super fun. Well, Doni, before we wrap up, I want to give you a chance to tell people how they can find you, your stuff, get more involved with the missions that you're on in your area. Give them the full spiel.
Yeah, so you can find me on most of the social media platforms as Donnie the Misfit. Besides Facebook is something different, but that's not really something I'd use. But everything else is on libertyorelse.com. You can find me that way. And also, if you're going to follow me on the other platforms, and if you're really, really sensitive and you get offended very easily, may not be my page. I may not be for you. But if you want to learn, if you're willing to get involved and want to be curious about doing different things and not being in an echo chamber, because I got cool friends like David Kumaya, all them people on Twitter and other platforms that we're really cool. We have great information. Also, hopefully, when you follow me on those platforms, you're gonna see I repost a lot of my friends as well. So hopefully, you can check them out too. Share their stuff. You may live in the same state as them and you don't even know it. So I need y'all to be building coalitions with my base as well, please.
Hell yeah. Nut Libertarian says she's everywhere. Always happy to see Donnie's posts out there. Amen to that. Guys, you heard her. Go check out all of those things. Follow her on all the platforms. Her content is absolutely fantastic, always. And then while you're at it, make sure you're doing the thing on this video. Like, subscribe, follow. If you're on here on YouTube, go over to Rumble. Follow the channels over there. It's so much better of a platform. And then come on back. We have an awesome lineup coming up. We've got Eric Brakey, Dave Casey, Kristen Alexander. Working on Dan Spons is also in the pipeline. We're just working on a date. We've got some really awesome people coming back. So be sure to check that out. And then there's a link to the Discord. The Free Speech Media has a Discord now. Go check that out in the description to all of these videos. Go join us over there. Still building it up, getting there, having some fun. But that's where we're going to be talking about all of the shows where you can pitch a guest on any of the shows that you want, that you think somebody should be on, pitch a show that you want to be on the network, or just hang out with other fans. So go check that out. Donnie, thank you so much for coming on. This was absolutely great.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, thanks so much for hanging out. We'll catch you back here next time. Until then, keep up the fight.